All right, everything should be going on here. Going to give it a second to roll out fully here. All right. All righty. So going to give it a little bit more time for people to anybody who wants to watch to go ahead and log on. Maybe a minute or two here. If you do live in the Northeast, it's a good way. It's a nice little kind of cozy night. Hopefully everyone's warm and everything like that. We got 10.5 inches in Jersey here. And so if you didn't get off work and you had to go travel, safe travels, everything like that. But without further ado, I think we should go right in and start everything. So yeah, we are hopefully we should be recording this onto the channel. But typically when it's been a while, I think this is actually the first time I've ever gone live regarding any kind of content here. And so in that regard, I'm kind of surprised it's kind of taken this long. But nonetheless, this is something that I've wanted to do for a while in terms of the type of content and to kind of be a little bit more of a dynamic content creator. And naturally, most of, if of course, the videos, most of them are very extemporaneous. They're very in the moment kind of things. I used to actually have a script, a teleprompter. I pre-write the script and then go ahead and do so from there. But over time, I evolved and I just kind of do it off the cuff now. And so there's no better way to go off the cuff than, of course, via live stream. And so just to kind of open things up here, I do want to, of course, the Olympics are wrapping up here. So a big congratulations to both the women's and men's USA hockey team for the big win there. Kind of sucks balls. The snow people, the Norwegians, I mean, they absolutely swept everyone and everything. It was kind of insane. I think they broke the record for most golds at a single Olympic kind of games. So congratulations to them and whatnot. But one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of start this stream here is because there's a lot of things kind of swirling around that I may not be able to always fit in videos, and this is a good way for me to kind of talk one-on-one with you guys who watch these videos to kind of get some back and forth here, even a Q&A if time permits. The first thing I really want to talk about tonight was the whole midterm situation with Trump administration and everything regarding that, the strategy in terms of what might happen, on and on. So regarding the midterm situation, I think one of the things I really want to hone in on here is the fact that there's times in politics where you want unconditional commitment and loyalty to a political party. So let's say in 2022, when Joe Biden's in power, I think he had all three chambers of the federal government, the presidency, the Senate, and the House, so they can push through legislation however they wanted, and they did with sparking inflation and whatnot. In those situations, you just want to win the midterms by any means necessary. You're just trying to either claim the Senate or you're trying to claim the House. Because at that point, all it matters is reaching over and pressing on that gas pedal or on the brake pad. Any means necessary. Just halt the agenda right then and there. But the problem is in 2026, I see a lot of people critiquing those farther right. I would go ahead and probably label myself in that little group as well, saying that this is a time to withhold support in political negotiations and leverage. The reason why you'd want to go ahead and do that is because, unlike in 2022, where Joe Biden is in power, and all you're trying to do is just throw a wrench into the spokes of the wheel and stop progress from going forward, you already have power right now. Donald Trump has the Senate, and he has what's left of the House. Donald Trump has the power right now. Republicans have the power. The GOP has the power, but they're just not using it. They're not using it to the full extent of the way that they can. We just saw them withdraw from ICE in Minnesota. Withdraw ICE from Minnesota. We just saw basically Trump said that the only states he's going to go into are states or cities that ask for the federal government's help in terms of deporting illegals, which is a total reneging on his initial core campaign promises. When it comes to, the border was sealed, so in that we stopped people coming in, but the problem is that we have at least on the low end, you have 10 million illegals in the country. On the low end, it's 10 million. In other cases, it could be 15, 20, 25 million, of course. So when it comes to that situation, it's really tough to see the administration kind of fall back on what they once ran on. And not to mention the horrific fumbling of the Epstein files. With the Epstein files, you had so many counter signal. If you watch the channel, you've seen all the clips. You have all the counter signaling in terms of the files are on my desk, and then the files don't exist. And then the files are all of a sudden being released. And so it's not really that the administration fumbled or they didn't release them or how they released them. It is more or less first of all, the overt and blatant misorganization of the administration. I don't think it seemed like everyone was at a traffic light and there was no traffic signals and everyone was just going however they thought fit. We had Dan Bongino, who left the administration, ironically, and Kash Patel go on an interview on television and just straight blatantly, tell the country that the Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. It was suicide. With Dan Bongino just saying, "I've seen the files. He killed himself." And so, as if they believe that their supporters are just literal retards. Very offensive to the base, very offensive to me as a voter. And so I think the best case scenario in 2026, it is February, almost March here. This is the time to tell the GOP either A, you step up and you do what you ran on. You don't give ground to retarded leftists, agitators and protesters and rioters. Don't let this be 2020 all over again. Because unlike 2020 with the Floyd riots, Summer of Love, that wasn't against a specific policy or a campaign agenda that the administration ran on and was enforcing. What's happening with ICE is a direct opposition to his agenda. And in their opposition, they successfully won. And they made them fall back and leave Minnesota. Something that, that's almost nearly unforgivable to see how they did that in that way. And the deportation numbers even before then were not nearly anywhere that they needed to be in order for this thing to kind of go ahead and be successful. So in that case, it was very disappointing even beforehand, but even then still is. I'm just going to go ahead and check how things are going on the stream here. All right. Awesome. Everything looks to be all good. So what should happen come November? Well, at this point, like I said, this is not a situation of the political cycle in which The GOP requires unconditional support. This is a time where you punish them, and you send a message of you're not happy with how things are going. So this is how the math works out in my mind. Okay. 2028, there's a good chance, regardless, in a vacuum, that the Dems win. Democrats win the presidency. It's either going to be someone like Newsom. At this point in their careers, I would venture to say that this is probably the best chance that someone like AOC is going to have at running for office, that she's probably going to have her entire career. It's either now or never. It's not going to be Bernie. It's not going to be Warren. It's not going to be any of the old guard. I'm going to need someone a little bit younger. Gavin Newsom, of course, is going to get a lot of steam. And I really do think that Gavin Newsom is someone who is quite worrisome in terms of political possibility and potential. He looks presidential. He can spin things in a very presidential manner. Yeah, the Munich Security Council was definitely horrendous. Except just like Kamala Harris, though, no matter how many bad things you have underneath your repertoire, it doesn't change. She's still going to throw her hat in the ring. It just means she's going to be able to be stopped out of the primary relatively early. You're going to have people like, depending on if she wins a governor race, someone like Amy Klobuchar might throw her hat in the ring. You have Gretchen Whitmer. I'm just going to see if Josh Shapiro, even though he's Jewish, with the Democrat Party, see how far he goes. I think a dark horse could even be someone like John Fetterman, to see how far he could go. You have Wes Moore from, I think, Delaware or Maryland, one of the two, black governor. So you have all these options. And as another dark horse that I think could possibly go forward would be Andy Beshear, who is a governor of Kentucky, quite a moderate guy there. So beyond that, you're going to see the Democrats try to moderate in some instances, but the base of the Democrats are very anti-Trump. They're going to, they're already saying it now that they're going to go after them litigiously. They're going to go ahead and try to nail everybody to the wall. Jon Stewart, I don't really see a lot of celebrities being very successful. You're going to have a lot of push for anti-establishment people, but I'm not really sure if I see it in that way. Yeah, I'm just not sure if I see someone like Jon Stewart being too successful. Stephen A. Smith doesn't have any kind of political moxie. He said was he socially liberal and fiscally conservative? That's hardly a hot take for someone in politics. Stephen A. Smith isn't going to go anywhere. Jon Stewart isn't going to go anywhere. None of them are really serious candidates. I think Wes Moore might legitimately go decently far. I think Gretchen Whitmer might make some noise. Of course, Gavin Newsom is going to try really hard, from California, of course. But nonetheless, every Republican knows, come 2028, if the Democrats win, really kind of no matter who that Democrat is, they're going to go after the right. They're going to go after everybody in Trump's administration. They're going to go after his lawyers. They're going to go after anybody who's connected to him. They're going to target conservative organizations. If you thought Obama and Biden were bad, wait for whoever comes to win in 2028. Now, there is a way to stem that. Right now, we, of course, like I said, we are the party in power. We have the presidency, we have the Senate, and we have whatever the fuck is left in the House of Representatives. Right now, they should be doing everything they can, 24/7, to go after these leftist activist organizations, to go after the moneyed influences, investigating George Soros and how he funds all of these little agitations and protests. He needs to show force and show power in enforcing his agenda. I said it so many times, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but Trump needed to invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota and Minneapolis to show the left that, unlike 2020, he's not going to roll over and die. That ship has since come and gone, unfortunately, and here we are now. So, what I think is negligent politically and is the equivalent of just endless affirmations, like telling someone who's fat that they're hot and skinny, is supporting the GOP if you're unsatisfied coming this November. If you are like me and you were eager and ecstatic about Donald Trump with mass deportations, with closing the border, with bringing down inflation, with restoring law and order, everything like that, if that's what you're eager for, quite frankly, although there are some bright spots, like Venezuela and the border and gas prices overall, the mass deportations and the developments with the Epstein files have been nothing short of disastrous. I really think that the handling of the Epstein files will go down as one of the worst scandals ever, at least going back to Watergate, with how so many people just completely fucked everything up. You had Pam Bondi going to a House Judiciary Committee hearing, and when they go ahead and question her, the Attorney General at the House Judiciary Committee, about the law and the investigation by the DOJ, she has the nerve to bring up the Dow being at 50,000. That's Pam Bondi. That's Trump's AG. Then you have Dan Bongino. Like I said, I mentioned a little bit earlier, he comes out of retirement, or he comes out from the podcast realm with Kash Patel, and they lie right to our faces about Jeffrey Epstein killing himself. And then you have mass deportations, which, if you look at the numbers in any serious way, it really was a strict failure to launch. Right when we're ramping things up, you have Nick Shirley posting the unbelievably masterful expose on the Somali fraud. The Trump administration felt compelled to go ahead and really set their sights on Minnesota. But just as you never really see a lot of agitations and protests in red states, apart from blue pockets in Texas. I mean, there was a raid that happened a couple weeks ago in Louisiana. It didn't make the news because everything just went really smooth. Anyway, you go to a blue city like Minneapolis. I've been there. It is very liberal. You go in there half-cocked. You send in these boys who have a $50,000 bonus, sign-on bonus, for joining ICE and being deployed out into these domestic war zones is what they're becoming. You send them there with no backup and no support. And these leftists who have just been nurtured and fostered by the left ever since 2020, even before 2020, especially since 2020 with the Floyd riots, as I mentioned earlier, and how Trump failed to enact and enforce order, teaching them and showing them that we do not put up with that level of rioting and destruction, but he did. No arrests from the Floyd riots. They were emboldened. And now they go to Minnesota. You see all the pushback. You see the shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And now ICE was pulled out. And even worse, Trump, as I mentioned earlier, says he's only going to go into states that ask him for ICE. So that was horrible. Looking at something here that someone sent me. Oh, yeah. Jeffrey Epstein hoax and a little just true social posting here. But so when you take everything into account there, when I say that you might even consider withholding your vote, withholding your support in this midterm election, a lot of people are going to be kind of brain dead and say that's immediately a vote for Democrats, and that's just not true. It's just not a support for the establishment, because regarding these core campaign promises, the Trump administration has been very establishment, putting one toe in and not going full throttle. Minneapolis, like I said in previous videos, was ground zero for how the rest of the country was going to react to ICE operations. The Trump administration lost. They flat out lost. And it took out all the momentum and leverage, all the wind in their sails going forward. And it was a heartbreaking reneging, like I said earlier, to the rest of the base. So you either unconditionally support the GOP going forward into these midterms, giving them the false illusion that everything in the base is okay, that we approve of everything so far, and only minor tweaks need to happen in order to kind of right the ship of popularity. That's simply not true. Mass deportation, like I said, were a failure to launch. Now, there are, like I said before, there are things I will never fault Trump on. The border was sealed. A+ job there. Gas prices did come down, which was another A+ there. The tariffs before Trump's Supreme Court kind of really fucked them there, with Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch just stabbing him in the back. Amy Coney Barrett just proving herself again and again, being the worst, by far the worst appointee of the Trump administration in terms of the Supreme Court compared to Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh. The tariffs were good. We'll see what happens legally in terms of appeals or what happens there. And I supported the operation in Venezuela. I support the Monroe Doctrine. I support American superiority in the Western Hemisphere. But what I don't support is going easy on those who actively wish to do us harm politically and even legally in a lot of cases. The left has been very clear in terms of what they are going to do once they regain serious political power. They have been abundantly clear. And it just seems like this Trump administration does not take that seriously, which is interesting because Trump came through his campaign through roadblock after roadblock legally. They charged him. They indicted him. The only reason why he's not sitting in a jail is because he won the presidency. The election saved him from going to jail. So, but it just seems like everything from there has been forgotten. As if everything is over. We've won the battle just because in 2024, he got 312 in electoral college. And everything, all the problems were solved. The White House X account posts based memes and posts and edits, which all they do is just antagonize the left and throw red meat to the base. This administration, let me just get this clear. It does half the job and it has a full smile. On one hand, it gives a ton of red meat to the base. So it has really good rhetoric. Like I said, the White House accounts on social media post fantastic things. They do. But the problem is on the other side of that, they don't back it up. See, you can't kick the bee's nest without handling the bees, without having a plan on how to handle that blowback. You can't be, as Nick Fuentes said, you cannot be performatively and provocatively antagonistic in terms of your media and not follow through. Because all you're doing is just riling up the left before they come back and wipe us clean off. Because that's what would have happened if Kamala had won. Everyone knows that. So in that case, it's really difficult. Let me just go ahead and check this real quick. Bear with me here. All right. So things are not okay in this administration. And to say that doesn't mean that I'm saying he's done nothing. Because I literally just rattled off a bunch of things I will support him on and will continue to support him on. I will die on the hill of tariffs. I will always support his Venezuelan policy. I will support him on the border. I will support him deregulation. I'll support his foreign affairs in terms of negotiating with other countries. And it's kind of funny the Ukraine war is still kind of going on. And of course, you have everything going on in the Middle East with Israel and Iran and Gaza. But this administration was supposed to be the most transparent going forward, and it has not been. Jeffrey Epstein, case in point. Endless redactions. My thought process is I would rather punish them in November and have Trump be the lame duck president for 2 years and show the GOP that we as the MAGA base, the voters, are not going to be taken advantage of anymore. Our vote is no longer free. Our vote is no longer unconditional. We will not just continue to kneel and blow the GOP establishment, the MAGA establishment, for lukewarm results. Simply will not happen. And if that means that, first of all, A, Republicans already don't vote in midterm elections, so you're going to be screwed there. B, all those young men, all those Gen Z that you activated playing the strong man and riling them up with executive aura, that's gone. That's gone. It's not coming back. And I say these things in February because I don't want to watch them get wiped off the face of the earth. Okay? I say this because I really do sincerely still see the left as they were in 2024. I remember what happened during the Biden administration. I remember the targeted attacks. First of all, Thomas Matthew Crooks, the two shooters, it seems like everything about them has just been brushed under the rug. The guys nearly assassinated him. Trump, that is. And it's like it never happened. These things should be things that they are gloating about the information that they discovered in an investigation, in a report. But nothing has come about. So many things you'd think would just go right into their favor immediately. Like, oh, well, this goes into their interest, and so they would go ahead and do it. Attacking the roots of these NGOs. They attacked USAID, which is good. But all of these leftist nonprofits, they should be going after for RICO and racketeering. They should be just nailing George Soros on the wall for funding and perpetrating all of these nationwide agitations and protests and riots. The No Kings bullshit. but they're not. All they want to do is just post an edit on X. Trump will do a true social post. They'll rile up the base. They'll give them some red meat. And then sit on their hands and do nothing. I think the answer to that is to say, okay, if you're going to be inactive, if you're not going to show up for your base, why do I have to show up for you? Because maybe if we stay home in 2026 in November and the Democrats are not going to take the Senate, but they are going to take the House. Once they take the House, once they do that, they're going to start the impeachments. They're going to start the inquiries. They're going to start investigations. Hey, AJ. They are going to do all of these things. They are going to lift the rock. They are going to investigate everyone. They are going to probe everything. And quite frankly, if Pam Bondi gets impeached, that's what she deserves. If Trump gets impeached, if Scott Bessent gets impeached, Howard Lutnick gets impeached, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, you name it. If they all get impeached and they all get their own subpoena and they all get their own hearing, just like we wanted it to happen in 22 when we took political power, then they deserve it. They deserve to get scalped. Because maybe the GOP hasn't had that type of punishment before. At least not in the time that I can remember. Maybe they need to get burned. And I know that they will get burned. But for me, it's whether or not we have them get burned in 26 or in 28. I don't want the GOP to think that this is a fever dream in 26. Thinking that everything's all right. Because it's not. I'm telling you, if you continue to be this inactive from 26 to 28, we're going to get slaughtered. We're going to lose. Strategy needs to change. Enacting the agenda needs to change. The attitude and the strategy, the mindset needs to change. And unfortunately, I don't think that commenting on X under the White House political posts are going to be the thing that makes that change. What I think is going to make that change is tangible political upheaval. Now, the electoral math in that case is, okay, let's say the Trump administration changes nothing, and 26 is a continuation of 25 and of January, which is abundant weakness and inaction, right? Although the beginning of 25 was glorious, and I want that Trump back. I want that Trump back as much as the next guy, okay? 26, they lose. They don't change. People don't come out to vote. They're not activated. They get slaughtered. 28 comes around. Or 26, 27, 28. People get impeached. They get hearings. They get exposed. They get made vulnerable. All that stuff. And hopefully the GOP sees that and they're like, man, we got to change. Because they actually really did stay home. They really did not come out and support us. In that case, what you might see is a serious GOP, a serious primary, where someone with balls wins. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, if they're currently in administration or if they're currently even in the public eye. Okay. 26, you stay home, they get obliterated, and it sends a message to the GOP establishment, to MAGA, saying, hey, we are not happy. And because we know that, we have power, we have the presidency, we have the Senate, we might lose the House, whatever. But we still control the majority of government. We are going to show you that we are not afraid to let you know that we're unhappy. You do that, 28, they wake up. Alternatively, in 26, everyone goes out to vote. Unconditional support, just like 2022. You say, you know what? The Epstein files were not perfect. The mass deportations were a colossal failure, but he's not Kamala Harris. And a vote for the couch, a vote for whoever it's not the GOP establishment in your district, a vote not for them is a vote for a drag queen story hour directly. You're a Democrat if you don't vote Republican. Everyone goes out to the polls. And I mean, considering, like I said, I don't know if you're going to have the same push of turnout in 26 because it's a midterm. It's not a presidential. Republicans don't vote in midterms and off-year elections. They just don't. Let's say the House is really close right now. Let's say they still flip the House, but we still show them that support. And we fight them through the impeachment and everything like that. In 28, they are going to continue to be inactive. They're not going to change. They're going to continue to fail on core campaign promises. They are not going to bring back mass deportations. They are not going to be fully straightforward and upfront about the Epstein files. They're not going to find an answer to the Ukraine war. They're not going to cool things off in the Middle East. They're not going to make housing more affordable. They're not going to do all of these things. They're not going to put pressure, downward pressure on the left. They're going to continue to just instigate and antagonize the left. They're going to roll out someone like J.D. Vance. They're going to roll out someone like maybe J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio kind of teamed up together. Maybe they do something like that. And man, a lot of people are going to those people who just held their, pinched their nose, held their breath, and voted Republican in 2026, the midterms, come 2028, they may not have the stomach to do that. And yeah, it's going to be a presidential year, but man, with how rabid the left is, it might not matter. Giving the GOP a false sense of security with unconditional support that what they're doing is exactly what the base wants. They're going to get slaughtered in 28. And in 28 is what's going to happen, is what we feared was going to happen if Kamala won in 24. In 24, what was the number one thing that the Trump administration, the Trump campaign ran on or promoted? I know this because I door knocked for the Trump campaign. Okay? That year, the whole word that was going around was that this was going to be the last year that you really had legitimate democracy or the illusion thereof. Because Kamala was going to come in, she's going to give amnesty, she's going to leave the border open, and this going to be Democrat all across the board. If Kamala wins, they're going to go after conservatives. Conservatives are not going to have a foundation, they're not going to have a base, and it's going to rot from the top down. That's what's going to happen. They fear-mongered. I would say appropriately so, because I do think that would have happened. But definitionally, they did fear-monger in order to activate people to go ahead and vote. And just about everybody and their mother did in 24 for Trump. Do I see them being able to do that again in 28 if they just show that this brand of the GOP, this version of MAGA, with that brand and that logo and that style, that's what's going to come up in 28, with how angry and riled up, and agitated the left is right now because of everything that Trump's doing. Talking the talk, but not walking the walk. I think they get slaughtered. I don't think they're going to activate the base. I don't think people are going to come out in droves to support them. And the Democrat you get in 28 is going to be what they fear-mongered about in 24. This Trump administration was played up to be the last shot for Republicans. This is it. You know, Joe Biden was really bleeding us down for a while. And 24 was the last chance, the last gasp before we were finally knocked out for good. Trump wins. And now we find ourselves here. So, regarding the midterms, I still want to give Trump administration enough time, and I have, and they still do. They can still turn the ship around. So regarding that, I think that's where everything in the midterms kind of lie. Going forward, though, I do see a lot of hopeful things in terms of Restore Britain. And that's another thing I really want to talk about real quick. In the first video I ever did on this channel about the UK and about the riots and the immigration going on in the UK, I had said that the United States, American voters, the American people have to watch the UK very, very closely. Because what is happening in the UK is not far away from here. As Matt Walsh said, there are only a few train cars ahead. So in that case, if you have been watching closely on what's going on in the UK with the Pakistan rape gang and the inquiries, everything like that, you have an island nation being invaded and conquered. These people aren't even walking over a line on paper between a continuous stretch of land. They're going on boats and crossing the water and invading the country that way. And you see all of these, you see the agitation in the British people in terms of being just purely fed up with the immigration issue entirely as a whole. And, you know, you have Boris Johnson that comes in, he fails. You have Nigel Farage, he fails. Now you have Rupert Lowe. Pay attention to what's going on in the UK. Okay? Because I do think that at some point, if politically the British people do not get proper representation and get a solution that they are fighting for, you're going to see a cultural civil war in Britain. Of course, I wish no harm. I don't want violence to break out, but that's just what might end up happening. And yes, things are a little bit different in the United States. We are a much larger country just by sheer landmass. And so it's a little bit harder for pressure to build up in that way. But if you paid any attention in history class, you know that the American Civil War did not occur in every single city across the nation. It had specific hotspots of kinetic conflict. You could argue that what happened in Minnesota was one of those battles. All of these ICE agitations and events are those individual battles. And so in that way, I think we're getting close. Because I don't want kinetic conflict. I don't want violence. I don't think I can make that abundantly more clear. However, when it comes to how serious we take issues with how Trump has handled mass deportations, when you hear about all the testimonies from those poor girls in Britain who were raped viciously by the immigrant Pakistan group, just remember very closely that Joe Biden had the border open and let in, on the low end, 10 million people. And the Trump administration, essentially just gave up on mass deportations. This is separate from the midterms, but in more just a cultural warning, I guess. I do fear that the apathy and the lack of seriousness given to the issue of multicultural mass migration and the levity that mass deportations is given continuously, I do fear that is going to lead to a harsher conflict and battle than people are anticipating. And I only say that because of what's going on in Britain. So, yeah, outside of that, that's I mean, the midterms, they're coming up fast, and I don't think that it makes you a Democrat to want to show the GOP that you're not just a lame duck, that you're not just going to endlessly support the GOP. You got to be able to negotiate and call bluffs, which is exactly what the GOP has done pretty much forever. Always called the bluff of its base, and we see what's occurred. So yeah, with that said, in the UK, let's see. I don't know if we have any kind of major comments here that much. Hey, you still around if you want to hop on for a little bit of a chat, and then we can wrap things up? Cool. Let me go ahead and all right. How do I go back to where you are? There we go. Add to the stage.
Yeah.
Hold on. I don't know if I want to add you that way. You want to try to talk a little bit? I just don't know if there's gonna be feedback loop because I don't have my headphones in. Add to stage and just show me.
I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
You there?
Yeah. Yes. Testing.
Oh, did I mute? I did mute it. Hold on 1 second here. Shoot.
Testing.
Gotcha. I got you now.
Yeah, I don't know what it would sound like on the stream. I just
no, they would definitely hear you. I just don't want the audio from my computer going into the microphone is all. Having that kind of feedback loop. But
see if I hear something on the stream.
Like your voice?
Yeah, I'm just testing it.
All right, hold on. Give me 1 second here. Let me go ahead and fish these out real quick. All right.
It sounded fine.
1 second here. Hmm. Cool. That should be better.
Yeah, I checked it out and it was fine.
Much better. Much better. All right.
It's gonna be a tough battle. I think. I don't. I don't know who's gonna be the winner. To be fair, I think it just seems so like hopeless almost.
Yeah, and just in terms of everything, man, it's tough.
It seems like the real winners are really the deep state. Whatever swamp he wanted to drain, it's not gone. I think it to me it seems like it's kind of gotten bigger and more entrenched, but now it's also like agriculture, like big ag, pesticides and stuff. Like whatever Maha was going to do, I'm sure they're furious. All the moms that were Maha, they're like, oh, great. So now he's selling out to big glyphosate. It's like I read something online and it kind of made sense. The left is completely captured by big pharma and the right is captured by big agriculture. And I guess little tech.
Yeah, just because a lot of MAGA is just a rural voter, and a lot of those are going to come down to the farmers. And Trump has always been really big on subsidies for the farmers, especially when it comes to tariffs and things like that. Just because of just how much more difficult it is to cultivate things in the United States with regulations and stuff like that. And Burgum was going to look into help with that with energy, and I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't remember who the Secretary of Agriculture was, but yeah, especially with little tech, and you have everything with AI. I mean, they have their fingerprints all over everything. Yeah, with Sachs and Teal, and then everything with Vance and things like that. Everything just kind of seems too muddied, and it looks too coincidental, you could say. And it really just kind of, because in a vacuum, JD Vance looks like a really good candidate.
Yeah, as long as you don't look at his background.
if you don't just look over his shoulder, everything looks really, really good. At least with someone like Marco Rubio, we kind of know the skeleton in his closet in terms of at least public knowledge. But with JD Vance, who was a relatively modern candidate, he's been able to kind of cultivate this political profile outside of being, autopsied viciously, like other candidates have been.
Seems fake. That's the problem. Like his entire life seems manufactured, from his name to how he got started to who funded him to what he actually believes. Because this guy hated Trump back in the day, which is whatever. Like people change, but it's just everything feels manufactured. Like he's saying the right things, and
yeah,
like just that red meat you were talking about. He's just always on top of, saying the right things, or going to Israel and refusing to go to the wall, but instead going to the church to appease, whatever side of the right wing base that doesn't approve of
like whatever the Christian nationalists and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's all performative. It's like at least if like he doesn't.
No, yeah, yeah. You look at JD Vance and he kind of almost had like a reeking of plastic smell. Not as bad as someone like Gavin Newsom might, but you just look at JD Vance and you're like, you look like you're just trying a bit too hard here.
Yeah, and he doesn't mog at all.
With Trump in 2016. He would say right things, like on the nose, but he also had a lot of characteristics that would make sense to make him a mixed figure. So he would be very politically incorrect, but then he'd say, grab mother pussy. He would have all these allegations against him, and it would make sense to be like, okay, well, here's the plus and here's the minus. It kind of comes full circle now.
Well, this is why I'm so interested in it, like what happens to Florida, right? Because
James Fishback.
if he wins in Florida, like that's going to be a seismic shift, I think. Right?
No,
Like
yeah.
how could he win? Right?
James Fishback is the embodiment of the online right. And this is something that we've talked about before, but he is the embodiment of, I don't want to say the Fuentes audience, but he
totally
is the embodiment.
He's totally a Groiper.
Just he's not as outwardly, I don't want to say antagonistic, because he is quite antagonistic, but he just kind of doesn't seem as put off. He certainly looks more politically, visually attractive than Fuentes, so he has that kind of going in his corner.
He's more visually attractive. he mogs Fuentes.
He mogs Fuentes, but yeah, it's really interesting because Byron Donalds is the quintessential example of the MAGA establishment in what I've kind of been noticing over the past couple of years and what has developed. Yes, he says all the populist things. Yes, he says he wants to go against the deep state. He's
super pro H1B, and he's super pro H1B, and also like super pro AI. He's very he panders to the donors, right? That's what he is. Mm-hmm. He's completely bought out, and I think it's a very effective line of attack from both the left and the right. Dude, there's like all the popular leftists online, or whatever they call themselves, like Sank and his ilk, like they have completely written off anybody that gets money from AIPAC, and they outwardly say it.
Yeah, and it's just like I said earlier, though, it's gonna be so interesting to see what happens. I mean, I think Fishback. What was the most recent polls that came out for the Georgia governor race? Because I think I remember the most recent one being Donald at 27 and Fishback at 23, something like that. Let's see if I can find it out here. Republican. So in January, they had a poll that had Donald at 37 and Fishback at 23, which that is extremely impressive. And in a way, that was from January 19th to January 29th. That poll was conducted, and I think the really kind of the whole Fishback campaign is a heat check, a temperature check across the rest of the country. Because in 24, it kind of felt like, because it was so, of course, politicized, but it was polarized in terms of the online left had their own bubble and the online right had their own bubble. And each side was absolutely certain that they were going to win.
Were they, in 24? Were they really? In the 24?
Right was in 24, the right, absolutely. Both sides.
The right knew they were going to win for sure. I think there was a bit more. I think there was a bit more.
You had Sam Cedar, and you had Emma Vigeland, and you had the woman on Breaking Points. I mean, they all had Kamala winning not only the swing states, but I think Emma said it. They all had Trump winning the swing states.
Trump winning this. Yeah.
No. Kamala. They had Kamala winning the everything. Well, and so he was like, you might see something like Texas being close. You might see something like Iowa being really close. I mean, the Seltzer poll was ridiculous.
When I knew it was completely lost, I think the biggest point was Kamala refused to do Joe Rogan. And then Trump went on there and was getting 1 million views per hour for the first 36 hours.
Yeah, but so with that election, like I said, you have the left in their own bubble and you have the right in their own bubble. And 24, the left had their bubble popped, and they're like, okay, well, maybe we gassed ourselves up too much. This Fishback campaign is a heat check for the right. You have a lot of online people on the right in 24 really thinking that they had a lot of influence, and Trump won. How much influence did the online right have? Is not exactly a study that you can do to kind of find an exact metric, but James Fishback is a really, I mean, it's as close as a perfect test as you're going to get. If James Fishback beats Byron Donalds, yeah, I mean, the race in general,
JD can't win.
The general election,
Fishback,
well, the general election for the Florida governor, if Fishback wins, is going to be closer than if it was just Donalds. But nonetheless, if Fishback does beat Donalds in that primary, it is a direct endorsement or an acceptance of the larger political body, at least in Florida, of the platform and the attitudes of the online right, which would be a monumental victory for the Christian nationalist movement, really.
it has to win.
You're gonna see a lot more candidates if Fishback wins the primary. Just wins the primary, doesn't even need to win the governor race. If he wins the primary, you're gonna see people popping up in Texas. You're gonna see people popping up in Tennessee, in Kentucky. You're gonna see a whole. I mean, it's gonna be a domino effect, especially in these ruby red states. You might see something in South Carolina. You might see something in. I'm trying to think of other, really good red states that it might
West
happen
Virginia.
in. Something like maybe Ohio. I mean, they have the governor race coming up, but maybe the next cycle you might see something pop up in Ohio. So, yeah, that whole race is really interesting. And going from 2% to 23%, I kind of go back
That's
to
faster. That's faster than Mamdani.
Oh yeah, and
That's
then you
a
have
faster rise than him.
I don't even know what's more impressive: Fishback going from 2% to 23%, or Restore Britain in a country that has a multitude of different political parties getting 10% pretty much in a straw poll the day or two after being created by Rupert Lowe. And so,
yeah, I think their main metric, the main metric that they go off of, just listening to, because I listen to Carl Benjamin and the Lotus Eaters and Connor Tomlinson. Their main metric is the amount of people that sign up as like registered or however they do it. They get people to join the party, like they give their email or whatever. And that's kind of the main thing that they look at, is just how many people sign up.
Yeah. So, I mean, Fishback is going to get blown out of the water in terms of fundraising and in terms of spending and things like that. So it really is going to be a sheer grassroots campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing a barnstormer right now, going just about anywhere and everywhere.
Can you imagine him winning, and then the next videos that come out is like him sitting down with a bunch of rabbis? Like, I don't, you guys.
He's gonna go to Israel. He's gonna go to a Wailing Wall, and it's gonna be like what did we just do?
Just as soon as he wins, like Mamdani. I think Mamdani won, and within a week he was just sitting down with a bunch of rabbis, and he had all these people on the left that are like, "What the hell is this?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I forgot what I was immediately going to say there, but yeah, I mean, like I said, but if Fishback does win, I mean, it's going to be a lot closer of a race. I don't think Florida will turn blue, but it won't be like a 20-point margin or 18-point margin that DeSantis had. But I'm quite, to be honest with you, I'm really surprised that Fishback, to my knowledge, I haven't noticed. I'm surprised he hasn't been on Tim Pool yet.
Yeah, right.
He's been on. He's been on Webbin a few times.
PBD. He's been on PBD.
Yeah, he was on PBD, and so I'm just.
He's been on with Sneeko and Clav a couple times.
Yeah.
That doesn't. Who actually cares?
So I'm a little surprised that he hasn't gone on Tim Pool's show yet, but man, when it comes to a state like Florida, the real election is the Republican primary. So right. I mean, if you can actually beat Donalds, that's seismic.
I think Donalds deserves to lose. I think he deserves. nothing about him is America first. Like nothing.
Did DeSantis endorse him officially, or did he withhold?
I don't know,
forget.
man. I was looking at his tweets,
I
and
don't
he's
think
like,
he endorsed him.
it seems like he's throwing shade at Byron a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, he said that, oh, well, Byron hasn't been there for a lot of the wins in Florida.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that he did. Or
He has
he's
not.
gonna.
He's not officially endorsed a candidate.
Yeah.
He is not officially endorsed. Trump has endorsed Donald's. Sanders has publicly criticized Donald's. Fuel speculation that he might support his, I mean, Casey Sanders isn't going to do anything. But it's very telling that someone like Ron DeSantis, I mean, pretty for a state like Florida, I mean, they're going to build a statue to Ron DeSantis. And anybody who Ron DeSantis touches is going to turn to gold in that state. So a non-endorsement of Byron Donalds, it's not an endorsement of James Fishback per se, but it really opens the door for someone like Fishback to just, squeak in and really mess things up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be. I think it's a.
That's a race I'll be watching very closely in the coming months.
Weather check or whatever you said it was.
Yeah, it's a heat check. It's a temperature check.
And then aside from that, no one's exciting to me. I think they've completely turned their backs on most of their campaign promises.
Yeah, and tomorrow we kind of talked about this a little bit before the stream, but the State of the Union tomorrow. I mean, Trump. I don't know if you saw that thing that Trump did in like December of last year. He had this address to the nation, and I was expecting it to kind of open up with this was before the Operation Venezuela, so I was expecting it to be like, we are moving into Venezuela, we are announcing this big thing with medicine, or we're doing this big with pharma, or the FDA, or with immigration. And it was literally him just going over what he would have already alternatively said in a State of the Union address, just going off on oh, this is what we've done successfully, this is our victories, literally that for 30 minutes, and that was it. And I was like, wait, this is you hype this up for that it was kind of it was really weird. And I looked at my parents when we were watching it, and we're like, did he just do that? Did he just kind of call upon the nation to kind of rally together just so he can kind of gloat about his agenda and what he's done so far? I've never seen a president do that before, and I'm not convinced it's a sign of him doing very well.
Yeah, dude, it's disappointing, honestly. I don't know. It's kind of blackpilling in a sense, because he was supposed to be the guy, right? Especially in the second term, nothing to lose. He's going to go after the people that try to kill him. He's going to deport all these people. He's going to put America first, and then
this.
Yeah.
And
so, that thing that I showed you, it's minus 47. He's the most unpopular president in the history of the states currently.
By the time of the State of the Union address, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, even in his first administration, of course, it wasn't that bad. But
it's even worse now.
You said it was kind of a blackpilling. That's why you see such radicalization like you do in the UK, where, like I said in previous videos, you have 2016. You have Boris Johnson comes in. He plays the part of the populist. He's a disappointment. 2020, you have Nigel Farage come in, and he has been a guy who's been in UK politics for a while. People know who he is. Maybe he can be the guy who actually does things correctly. He doesn't end up doing anything. And then as you keep on getting through these candidates that don't do anything, you continue to push people towards a more radical solution. A guy
In
who's like,
both
okay,
directions.
yeah, in both directions. And that's how you get someone like Rupert Lowe. And I do think that Rupert Lowe is legitimate. He is not from the political establishment. And his 7-minute video that he posted, kind of opening up Restore Britain, I thought was a masterpiece. That's exactly, and this is why I said people need to watch UK. That's exactly what's going to happen in like 28 if MAGA doesn't get serious about these issues. Because, like you said, this was supposed to be the guy who settled the score. He was supposed to go up against the deep state. He was supposed to go up, and he's supposed to. I mean, wow. I don't think anybody was expecting him to deport 20 million people. But I mean, we
At
weren't
least
even
five, maybe
we weren't really
five.
even on pace. I don't even think we're on pace for like a million a year.
Yeah.
Let alone 5 a year. So even like I was looking at like a ChatGPT and whatnot, but like what could mathematically be possible in terms of the maximum these deportations if he invoked the Insurrection Act, if he does emergency powers, if he uses the military. And I think it kind of came up to about like 12 to 15 realistically. And I mean, we're not even going to get 4 total. We're not even going to get 1 million per year. And you have the South deportations, but we're also paying people $1,000 each to leave the country. And first of all, the worst people aren't the ones taking that check. The worst people are the ones who are going to take their chances and stay in. And those are the people that you need ICE, and you might even have to invoke the Insurrection Act to quell protesters and agitators when you're enacting that policy, that operation. And so just the failure to do that is going to push Gen Z at the very least, because I think Gen X is already kind of on that train going downhill with no brakes. And so there's nothing slowing them down. Boomers, the same thing. But some millennials and even Gen Z, especially, they're going to look elsewhere. They're not dyed in the wool Republican. Okay, they gravitated towards Trump, A, because Kirk was a fantastic salesman, but because also Trump played the part of the strongman, of the executive, of a quasi-king dictator. And that's exactly what Gen Z wanted to see from president.
They wanted a dictator.
They wanted to, I mean, and if you're not going to be the guy, this is what Gen Z is going to say. If you're not going to be that guy, I'm going to find someone who will. And how do I know that's going to happen? It's happening in the UK right now. Rupert Lowe is their guy after Farage and Boris failed. And I mean, I just worry, like, if for some reason Rupert doesn't work out, they will find someone to the right of him. The same way that if Trump continues to fail in his agenda in enacting his core campaign vision, they will find someone else more to the right. And a fishback is a symptom. Fishback is the early waves of that tsunami. And it's a sleeper race, man. It's a very sleeper development that's happening. And because it's in Florida, because it's in a deep red state, people are like, oh, it's Florida. You're going to see some pretty far right guy win down there. It's like, no, this is a different kind of far right. This isn't your grandfather's far right. This isn't your grandfather's nationalist party. Okay, this is a reactionary, rebellious right-wing faction that's born from the failures of the MAGA establishment.
Yeah, well, and Rupert Lowe, I was just going back there for a bit. Rupert Lowe is the blow-off valve, right? If he doesn't get in, whoever comes after Rupert, buddy, like,
dude, yeah, exactly.
right? And the thing about Rupert is I don't think he wants to be prime minister. I think he's has it. I think he feels as if he has a duty to be prime minister, right? The guy wants to live on his farm, right, and do his
Yeah.
and just keep doing what he's doing. But he
Yeah.
has a calling.
Yeah, and those are the kind of guys you want in there in the first place. The guys who aren't like, oh, vote for me to get in there and then I'll solve everything. It's the guys like, I don't want to have to be here, but you're kind of forcing my hand to enter into these matters. And when he was laying it out in that video, he says, I'm going to get people from outside of the establishment, people who have no ties, whose the tentacles have not reached them. They are not tainted. They are pure.
Man, imagine Carl Benjamin, Carl Tomlinson being in his administration, and they would totally be in there.
Oh, I mean, if he asked him to serve, I mean, Carl Benjamin was already. I'm not so sure about Tomlinson, but Benjamin was a minister at some level in politics. He actually did serve.
Yeah, I didn't know, but
He served briefly though, but he at the very least he ran. I'm pretty sure that he won, but nonetheless, yeah. So he does have some experience in that regard. But
I thought he didn't have any experience, to be honest.
No, he definitely threw his hat in the ring. He definitely was in a race in the past. I'm not sure if he won. The more I think about it, the more I think that he didn't win, but he certainly did run. And then he was kind of pushed. That was like when he got canceled, and then he was pushed into like the fringe. And that's where he kind of hibernated and then kind of incubated from there to where he is today. But
sure about that. I don't think he's done anything in politics. He's been a YouTuber for 10 plus years. It's like
so he was he was like a podcaster before, and then he actually ran for office, and that's what came out of it. But yeah, if you have a Rupert Lowe government, yeah, he's gonna pull everybody from the outside into it. And yeah, I get nervous in terms of if that doesn't work out, where do people go from there? When he said he wanted to ban the burqas, I was like, wow,
super based.
It
sends a signal. They're going full Japan, bro. Japan's banned burqa, banned halal, not allowing Muslims to be buried in their country. It's a complete rejection of Islam, and I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it, right? You're not going to go to Saudi Arabia and demand they have Christian cemeteries and large cathedrals, and it's not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. It's only Western countries that seem to fall prey to this like acceptance, and it's like the three deadly sins of white people that's used to demoralize them. It's number one is slavery, right? Number two is colonialization or colonization, and number three is the Holocaust. It's those three things are used constantly to beat white people over the head with, to make sure that they have no national identity because, well, slavery or colonialism. And if you become nationalist, then you're Hitler. Like, what are we doing?
No, I haven't heard anybody speak better on that than Carl.
Yes.
The way he articulates that is beautiful and it's very poetic and it's spot on. And when Rupert in that video said that the way forward, it won't be easy. It will be painful, but it is possible. A direct contrast to when Farage, I think it was a couple of days later, or if I think it actually said it previously, where he was like in an interview and Farage just says it's not possible and it's not feasible, so it's not even something that we're going to go after.
He's politically aligned with the Green Party now.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are we doing?
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. And so, but Outside of that, I'm not sure if we have any other comments we want to look into here.
There's war with
Pretty good.
Iran.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anything's going to come from that, to be completely honest with you.
You
I
think?
don't know. I don't see it. I really, with all the fear mongering that's happened over the past, even like last year, see, it often comes up whenever like Epstein files kind of get a little bit of attention, and then something with Iran or Gaza happens. Um, I don't fear what the whole Iran situation. I really don't. Um, I I really would be shocked if we got into kinetic conflict with Iran, and
It,
that's not like a bombing operation. Those happen all the time.
I
We're
don't
not
think he
going to
wants
see
to
it.
put boots on the ground, but I think he's going to
No.
bomb them for sure.
Yeah, bombing's totally different than a full scale like war. Um, I don't see a war happening, but I also
I
think that
think I
Trump.
think the Ayatollah is horrible. I think he should be
Right,
removed if possible. I do. I
right.
genuinely believe that there are a lot of good people in Iran, very smart people too, like some of the most intelligent people that have just been completely subjugated for what 45 years now.
Mm. Yeah, ever since the revolution.
Yeah,
Ever since the revolution. And I think when it comes to Venezuela, you see this point made too. The reason why we were able to do what we did in Venezuela instead of something like Iraq is because different countries are different countries. And so you have different inherent cultures, you have different inherent structures. You can do what you did in Venezuela, but you may not be able to do that exact same thing in Iraq. And so
yeah, because they're
Iran is not
ideologically dug in.
Iran is not the same as is not really parallel with a lot of the other Middle Eastern countries. There's a reason why when the protests were really starting to occur, they were burning down the mosques. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's a Muslim country because they have those mosques and they have such a high reportedly Muslim population. And certainly they're more Muslim than anything else. But there's a reason why they target the mosques primarily. That's because to them, it's not a sign of religious fidelity, but it's a sign of the oppressive political state and how they just subjugate everything that they do. And so in that matter, it's not the same as Iraq. And I really don't think it would occur the same way. But the United States also does have a long history of funding people that they end up going up against as if like they want to keep these controlled pockets of opposition. They created ISIS in the Middle East. They sustained all of these puppet governments across Assyria and across all the different countries so that they can have conflict and so that they can kind of validate themselves and the size of the state. You see a lot of dude, Obama sold the cartels like 2,000 firearms, Fast and Furious. He sold a cartel firearms under the idea that, oh, we're going to give it to these guns. We're going to track the guns and see like an ant into an anthill. We're going to have them find out where all the tunnels are. We're going to give them these weapons. We're going to have them, find out the whole system. That's not at all what happened. All it did was
It's
just
like the
enable the
pager
cartels
operation,
more.
but less effective.
Way less effective. Way less effective.
It just gave them guns.
It's not even that they were like bad guns and that they shot like banana peels. Like they were supposed to be used to be like, okay, well, he sold it to this guy, who sold it to this guy. And so we found the kingpin that way, and now we're going to go in. Like, no, they literally just sold them firearms. That was it. And now you see what's going on in Mexico with it's pretty much the cartels versus the state. And the state has always been kind of squeamish in terms of directly going up against the cartels because the cartels, pretty much whoever's in government, is like, okay, the cartel just didn't want to kill them for whatever reason because they will protect the cartels. They're not going to go after them. Trump is putting a lot of pressure on Scheinbaum, on the president and the leadership of Mexico to be like, hey, get your fucking shit in order here with these cartels. At this point, with what happened in Venezuela, I just want to see the only real war on drugs I want to see is Trump going directly after the cartels and say, listen,
Yeah.
if you don't do this, we are going to roll in tanks. We are going to go into your country. We are going to secure these hotbeds of cartel activities, the main headquarters of the operations of the cartel. We're going to snuff them out. We are
Yeah.
going.
Send in Delta
You thought,
Force.
yeah, you thought that Venezuela was bad or Venezuela was this horrible and tragic operation. You haven't seen anything yet. That's what I want Trump to do if necessary in Mexico. And to be completely honest, I'm surprised he really hasn't done that yet. I really wish that he would just all the attention he's giving to Iran in the Middle East, just give all that attention to Mexico. Okay. That
Yeah.
would be the ultimate Monroe Doctrine move right there.
Yeah,
Say,
I
listen,
agree.
we need to secure this is national security risk in terms of the drugs coming in and all the gang activity. If you even have to temporarily run this country until they clear all the corruption, put a puppet in there. I don't care.
I mean, there technically is one already.
You can't have I mean, Venezuela was a narco state, but they also weren't on our border. You can't have a cartel state on the border. That's not gonna work. And so if any war happens, it should be that war on drugs. I really
Or the
do.
liberation of Canada.
The liberation, dude. The whole MAID program is
It's so
absolutely
gross.
it's sickening. The
It's
state is
97% white people too, hey?
really
Yeah.
97%.
Yeah. It's
Damn.
insanely high and
I heard
disproportionate to.
I heard a story that there was a guy in Canada who had reported that he was getting weekly cold calls from the state offering to like see if he was still interested in the program.
I'm not surprised, man. A kid just killed himself. He was 26 because he had seasonal depression disorder or something.
That's exactly yeah. I think
Like,
that's the story.
no, this kid definitely went through with it. But it's just,
Okay.
it's just why support somebody's health care when it's easier to
You
just
kill him.
kill them and then frame it as compassion.
Do we have the updated numbers in terms of the percentage of deaths attributed to MAID kind of across the country yet for
I don't know.
2025?
I don't know the percentage.
I would be very interested to know what those numbers are.
Oh, it's growing, so that's good. It's outpacing inflation. It's growing.
So, and by the end of 2024,
5.1%.
I have 4.7, but
I get that from Canada.ca. In 2024,
okay.
5.1% of people in Canada who died received MAID.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. I see what you're talking about. Yeah, there's a 0.4% increase in 2023. Dude, that is such an Orwellian policy, bro.
Crazy.
That is literally insane.
Yeah, it's
a literal genocide of your own people.
Oh, dude. And then you just look at the people that are running these programs. They look exactly like the type of people that you just find an abortion clinic and look at the lead abortionist. It's that exact type of person. That look, that like old haggard crone look, that swamp hag look.
Yeah, dude. I remember making the video that we made about that earlier before, and it's only gotten worse since. And
don't worry, it's only gonna get worse.
It's only gonna get worse. There's no brights to it. That's so crazy. And it's eventually you'd think that there would be this conservative, counter swing or pendulum back with the conservative bloc. but it hasn't happened yet. And you just wonder, like, because you look at Britain and you're like, well, it happened with them. And I think at a certain point for a country like Canada, I just don't think that there's a crisis apparent enough to really agitate enough of any faction of a base like it has in the UK. Because the UK, with the problems it has with immigration, is like an
Way
eminent
worse. It's way worse.
emergency, right? Like urgent crisis
It's way
that like
worse.
you can't like you can't ignore the issue anymore.
Same in
But with
Paris.
Canada,
Same in
with
Paris.
the, in Canada though, it really does seem like it really does just seem like everything is bad, but it's not
It's,
too bad
no,
where
it's the
you
nature of the bad. It's the nature of the bad. We don't
right. It's like
have an
it's
Islamist
not
problem.
it's not so bad that it like takes up more of the like you're not going to worry more about the issues in Canada more than like your current everyday duties, whereas in the UK is like you hear about Islam all the time, you hear about the Pakistani gangs like all the time.
Yeah, we don't
And
have
for
that
like
problem.
no, and for UK, another thing about that is it's an island country and it's small. It's a very small landmass, and
True.
so problems in that way are kind of amplified and magnified. Um, Whereas in Canada, I mean, it's a larger landmass, just like the United States. Like I said, we have a lot of tensions here. We have a lot of issues here, but we have a large country that's spread out. You have your urban areas and your urban centers, but it takes a lot more to build tension in a country like the United States. And the same thing goes for Canada.
The
If you had a
epicenter is going to be in New York, if you ask me. They're doing like openly the call to prayer, and they're taking over
oh,
streets, and
dude, that video is nuts. Did you see
it's
that
really
video?
yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, especially in a state like New York. And
And in
yeah,
Canada, it's a lot more Indians, right? And just I think they're a bit more passive of a
mm,
people group.
very
Yeah, they have
Hindu.
their issues, right? They don't they don't integrate. They
Well,
integrate differently than Muslims that push their ideology, whereas Indians just kind of, for the most part, they just go along to get along. Like I've never had any issues with them. I've never had any like antagonism with them. I've
mm,
been to their Diwali celebrations and it's fine. It's obnoxious, right? When they take over streets in Toronto, it's obnoxious and it's dirty, but they're not violent, right? They're just not
right.
they're not a very violent people. They're quite docile. So I guess in that sense they are kind of, there's that bit of Canadian spirit where everybody's just fucking passive and sedated.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it is. That was kind of like the idea of like it's not too bad. The issues facing Canada are, I guess
Economic
you could say
mostly.
like they're economic, but they're for a people and a culture that revolves around the passivity like that of like let's not get too riled up about this. Let's just kind of relax and stay
Like that used to be
calm.
fine, right? That used to be a selling point. That used to be a great thing, right? Canadians used to just be known as being like overly nice. And most
Right.
people I talk to and meet are still that way, right? Everyone, cashiers talk to you, everyone holds the door open. Like that's just how it is here. Like at my gym, I don't know how it is where you are, but people just leave. Most of the lockers are unlocked with all their stuff in there. People charge their phones, they leave it on the
High
counter.
trust society.
Yeah, I left my water bottle and lock on the counter and then came back after 2 days, found it in that exact same place, right? It's just, and that's a public gym, very diverse, mind you. It's very, very diverse, but it's just everyone just kind of, no one's trying to steal shit. I don't see that happening in parts of the UK.
No, no, you don't. And I think it is because it's a different inherent like religion. With Indians, it's Hinduism, but when you
Mhm.
have Pakistanis and just general Middle Eastern, Islam is not a coexisting religion. It's not
Religion of peace, bro. What are you talking about?
it's not a religion that just kind of settles in with others. It is it's a religion
They
of
overtake.
domination.
Yes, they
It's a
overtake.
religion of domination and kind of
Look at their birth
climbing.
rates.
Right? Yeah. Uh, there was
Look
that
at
the debate that Andrew Wilson had that I think
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we looked at. And the guy literally just says like he just says the quiet part out loud, like we inbreed so that IQs are low, so they're easier to just accept the religion,
It's really
and
insane.
that's how we cultivate a strong culture. And it's just like, what now? Like, excuse me. But that's the whole strategy, and they you'll never see a religion that is as fanatical in terms of direct action for advancing their movement than radical Islamists.
I think LGBT is pretty close up there, though. Like leftism.
That is true. You do see a lot of trans shooters.
Except they don't procreate, right? They don't.
They no, they
That's
don't
their
procreate.
that's their issue is they don't procreate at all, but they're
Yeah,
extremely dogmatic and fanatical in their views, right?
they're both suicidal, but in different ways.
One just gives you a bunch of virgins.
Yeah, yeah. The
Both suicidal.
the trannies will just the trannies will just die out, but the Muslims will just blow themselves up.
That's crazy.
That's what they'll do.
Yeah, I
They're
guess they are
suicidal
both
in different
both
ways.
suicidal.
They're both suicidal, just in different metrics. But but
Yeah.
no, that whole thing's crazy. And I mean, how much time left does Carney? I mean, Carney just got in, right?
Oh, dude, there is no time limits. That's the thing with prime ministers here. You can win in perpetuity. If they keep voting you in, you're still in. There's
Really?
no term limits. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, there's no term limits, but isn't there like the next general election is gotta be like what, 4 years?
3 years, I think.
Oh, 3 years?
Can you believe that shit though? Like, can you believe it? That
No term limits, or
from 2015 to 2024, it was a liberal government. Look what happened to the country, and the liberals get voted back in as well. Our electoral system is very skewed to the east, right? Because there's Newfoundland and Labrador, and those places there that per vote they get way more representation, right? So one vote in Alberta counts for X percent of the seat. There's like a multiplier if you're voting from the east. So the votes are disproportionately weighted. It's not by population how you guys do it.
it's so weird.
It's very weird. Because I know you guys take a census, which is how the
Mhm.
Democrats rely on winning, is just by counting non-citizens in their census, therefore increasing their total amount of seats. Here, I don't think it's done by population. It's done by some arbitrary who gives a fuck.
Yeah, and you bring up the census, which is a really good point. I mean, another part of the whole mass deportations for Trump was supposed to be getting warm bodies out of the country so they can't be counted in the census. But now they're pushing the Save America Act, which in
Hasn't
of
that
itself,
passed?
it hasn't. It's stuck in the Senate, and it only really depends on
Mitch McConnell.
not Mitch McConnell, but John Thune in terms of how he pushes that bill through. Because if he can let it get filibustered, but he can also do some parliamentary stuff where to force Democrats to like speak for like 2 days straight, and they're not going to want to do that. Like I think He can recess, but he doesn't have to adjourn the session. And so as long as it's like recessed, the Democrats have an hour per to debate the motion. And then once they get through all of them, which is 48, 47, like I said, that's where the 2 days come from. Once each senator gets their hour, then they go to voting. But like that has to be like pushed by Thune. Alternatively, you just go into a filibuster where it's just like endless debating until a motion to end debate comes up. And where the filibuster comes in is the motion to end that debate and to set up the vote for the actual bill requires 60 votes. And so that's where the filibuster comes in.
Oh,
And when
wow.
when the Republicans have 53 guys in there, it's nearly impossible to get 7 Democrats to agree to end the voting for a 50-50 vote on the actual bill. And so that's
Wow.
why it's getting held up right there. But listen, the SAVE Act, the SAVE whatever, it's a good bill by itself. So on the record, I want to say it's a good bill by itself.
I thought
The
so
only
too.
problem is that just like a lot of things with the Trump administration, it's a cop out. The reason why I say it's a cop out is yes, it mandates like paper ballots and it mandates voter ID. It also switches up the census to where it only counts citizens and not just warm bodies.
Obviously.
Because the idea of the warm bodies is that like you would say, like, oh, I'm representing my constituents. And so your constituents would be anybody living in your district, whether or not they're citizens or not. Because if you're undocumented and you're living in New York, you're technically a subject to the laws and regulations in New York. And so you'd be de facto a constituent. And that's what the census and thus the electoral college would be distributed based on, where like the most constituents are. So the Save America Act, like I said, paper ballots, voter ID, and you also change the census rules. The reason why I don't like this route is because it gives pressure off of Trump to do the mass deportations and solve the problem that way. So before you could leverage Trump and say, listen, you need to do mass deportations because once the census rolls around and you get all these people out, the Democrats will then lose all those seats. And so the mass immigration was wrong and problematic, but for multiple reasons. One of them was the census. One of them was voting. So that was a legitimate issue. The second legitimate issue was cultural cohesion. It was crime. It was all the rapes that have been done by illegal immigrants. It was the downward pressure on wages. It was economic disruption. Everything I just listed after the political factors, being the electoral college reallocation, the economy and crime are, you can think of them as like softer issues politically for politicians. Yes, they're going to make people come out to the polls to vote in elections, but they're not going to directly affect the Republicans' ability to systematically win elections like it would if it kept on changing electoral votes. So if you pass the Save America Act, like I said, yes, you do get paper ballots. You do get voter ID mandated. But once you let the government just kind of say, okay, we're only counting citizens in a census now, a lot of pressure and a lot of push for mass deportations evaporates overnight. And so now if you go to Trump and you say, what incentives do you have to deport all the people that Joe Biden brought in? He's going to say the standard stuff like, oh, we want to cut down on crime. We want to prioritize American workers. But those are things that people are lulled to sleep with after like a week because the next story comes into the media and that's what happens. He doesn't have to worry about it affecting the vote count in California or Illinois or New York or New Jersey. He doesn't have to worry about any of that anymore. None of Republicans do. And so I just get scared that once that passes, if you thought mass deportations were bad now, they're going to be almost non-existent if that passes.
I'm pretty sure you've already given up on that, right? I don't know what hope are you holding out?
In terms of just the mass deportations themselves, I'm not sure if
where else are they going to go?
I would say the only hope that I have is I'm still giving. It's not really hope in a sense, but I'm still saying I'm just trying to be as fair as possible in that I'm saying, listen, it's only February and the election isn't until November. You still have time to change this. This isn't like we're saying this in August, September, October, where it's right around the corner. And you could have said like, oh, you should have told us how you felt about mass deportations back in January or in February, where we had more time to hear your voice and to pivot on that issue. If we only say this near the election, they're going to have that cop out and that easy kind of, well, we thought that we were doing good type of thing. It's less of like, I still think that they can go back into Minneapolis and lay down the law. It's more of like, listen, I'm saying this on record now because come August, September, October, and then November, you're going to look like utter retards.
Yeah.
So that's where I come from in that respect. So I'm not so naive as to think that that's a real possibility in terms of Trump going back to Minneapolis or mass deportations ramping back up. It's more of like, listen, you still have time to fix this. Show even like you got to show some effort because right now they're showing basically none. And this is a policy position that they legit could be giving red meat after red meat to the base for, but they just aren't. They could be parading around a bust of 100 illegal migrants that they captured, but they don't. And to a lot of people, that makes them think that it's because it's not happening. Which, I mean, if they are doing that and they're not celebrating it, they're not pushing it on their socials or through the media, through propaganda, then they really are an administration that deserves to lose. Because you know what Biden, what Kamala, Obama would have done to kind of push support for that agenda. And for it to be such a core thing, I'm just, you have time to fix it. And if you don't, then you're making your own bed.
Yeah. Well, I think this was an interesting stream. You should try more often.
Yeah, hopefully I can connect it to other platforms like X and whatnot. But we can definitely chat more at the post show. But if you are watching this after it goes live, I hope you did enjoy it. And I do want to do more of these going forward. I do post like a real like topic video every other week, and I'm hoping to kind of be able to do a stream or two in the in between weeks. I think it's a really good way to kind of keep in touch with you guys directly in that way. So if you liked it, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next stream if I don't see you then, but definitely in the next video.